Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Pragati, and I have here with me Arushi Gupta, who heads Influencer.in. We just opened up the webinar and we'll start in a couple of minutes. We're just waiting for more people to join in. Thank you so much for taking time out for joining us today. We really appreciate it and looking forward to the session.
Hi everyone.
While we're waiting, I was just wondering if you could just, type on chat and let me know if I'm audible and if you can share my screen. Sorry, if you can see my screen, if that's okay. If you can confirm, that would be great. Thanks so much, Sriti. Thanks. Yeah. Okay, so I think we can start. I see more people are joining in, but in the interest of time, let's maybe begin. So yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our webinar. So the agenda of this webinar is to understand how the COVID crisis has shaped consumer behavior in India in the recent months. As well, we have a special focus on influencer marketing. And joining us today is Arushi Gupta. She has Influencer.in. With over 10 years experience in marketing, Arushi has helped brands across sectors with design and execution of multiple digital initiatives. And she currently leads the influencer marketing efforts at Social Beat, which is one of India's fastest growing digital marketing agencies. She's also postgraduate from the London School of Economics. And of course, there's me. Most of you probably know me. So yeah, the webinar will be approximately 45 minutes in duration with a Q&A after. So during the webinar, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to type them in the chat box. We will definitely get to them after the slides are done. So yeah, let's proceed. So before we begin, I wanted to quickly give you a quick introduction, a short one of who we are. So Talkwalker, we're a social media analytics company. We are based in Luxembourg. And what we do is we provide software to protect, measure, and promote your brand online. And we have 6 different offices around the world. We are not in India yet, but we are quite close. We're in Singapore. We have a variety of products to help measure your brand's digital footprint, ranging from our free tools and, of course, Talkwalker Analytics. And as you can see, we have some leading global brands that trust us with this. I also want to quickly take you through the different ways in which a tool like ours can make your job or life easier as marketers. So basically, there are 3 main ways in which a social listening tool can make your day-to-day easier. And these are, we're able to help you protect your brand by detecting the early signs of a crisis, right, and alerting you about it before it becomes a full-blown crisis or emergency. And then ultimately, the goal is we help you control the conversation and then the ultimate resolution. And then there's also, we're able to measure the success of your marketing campaigns by providing you with a complete overview of your social footprint online, be it campaign-wise, hashtag-wise, or for your brand as a whole, or even for that of your competitors. And lastly, social listening provides valuable insights on what you can promote in your next campaign. If there's an emerging trend, there are keys and clues, let's say, early signs that, something's going to become a trend in the next weeks or months. And that's what we help you identify so you can, find your next trending hashtag or your next killer campaign. And now I let Arushi give you a quick introduction to Social Beat and Influencer.in. Thanks so much, Arushi, once again. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Pragati. Thanks so much for having me. Thanks everyone for joining in. And yeah, so I'll just dive in. So SocialBeat is one of India's fastest growing digital agency. We've been around for the last 8 years now almost. And we have presence in Bangalore, Chennai, Delhi, Mumbai. Today we are a 170 member team. And in terms of digital marketing, we do everything end to end, be it social media, be it creating websites, being SEO, content. In terms of influencer marketing, we are an in-house product called influencer.in, which we kind of started 5 years back. That's our own proprietary product where we have an array of 40,000 influencers. We also have 2 other products. One is 22 languages, which focuses on multilingual content and helps brand create content in 22 official Indian languages. We also have a product called Ads Quotient, which focuses on competitor benchmarking. We work very closely with Google and Facebook as well. We're part of the premier Google partner and work with Facebook agency directory. These are some of the brands that we work with, in terms of influencer marketing and also end to end. We can go to the next slide. Yeah. So like I mentioned, influencer.in is a proprietary product which we kind of started 5 years back. So what it basically helps brands do is we have a database of 40,000 influencers. So you can actually kind of come and discover them. And depending on what your criteria is, which platform are you looking at? Are you looking at YouTube? Are you looking at Instagram, Facebook? Are you looking at a niche audience or a mass audience? Which category of influencers are you looking to tap? Is it fashion? Is it gaming? So depending on your requirement, the product kind of helps give recommendations on the best influencers that your brands can partner with. We also help brands create the content creation because sometimes they come with a brief that they want to partner with 50 influencers, but they don't really know what the communication strategy needs to be. So we help create that and amplify that as well across channels. We also kind of track results post the campaign as to which content kind of worked best and which influencer worked best depending on what was the overall objective of the campaign. So yeah. Can go next. So like while this has been a reality till now, COVID has obviously definitely changed a lot of things. And this is a quote by Rahm Emanuel. He was Barack Obama's chief of staff back in 2008. And what it basically says is all of us can either treat this pandemic as a crisis or as an opportunity and maybe pivot our business models from here on. Because whatever said and done, we feel it is definitely here to stay. We've already been in lockdown for the last, I think in India for almost 4 months, and we don't really, see coming back from here for now at least. Can go to the next slide. So we've obviously seen a new normal getting formed in this, how we are working. Most of us are spending a lot of time at home. Most of us are exercising online. We have been talking to a therapist online. We are consuming content. We're watching our shows online. We're also socializing with families through Zoom calls online. We're using basically a lot of our free time online, and hence more and more users are only spending time online even more today. And hence, we feel brands definitely at this hour need to definitely have a digital first strategy, because like I mentioned, existing users are spending more time and new users are only coming online right now. And hence it needs to be digital first, and there has to be a shift from offline to online in these times for most brands in terms of their marketing spends. Yeah, we can move. So this is a study done by Nielsen sometime back, as I think it was a couple of weeks back post the lockdown, and this clearly shows a spike, right, in the social media platforms. If you can see, like most of them have obviously seen an increase, and definitely TikTok is here. We don't, TikTok, as you all know, 2 days back was obviously banned in India. You might see this place take over by Roposo, which is currently the #1 app on Play Store, or maybe a Trell or a ShareChat. Still early days, but what it basically tries to say is that more and more time is now getting spent online and on social media. And where are these users coming from, right, in India? As you can see in this table, a lot of this is basically coming from tier 2, tier 3 cities. So these users are definitely not going to be mostly English speaking. So multilingual in these times will play a strong role according to us. Plus, I think a lot of news as well is getting the content is getting consumed online and not offline. So a lot of shift is happening, and it's going to be exciting, and it's going to be a big opportunity for brands to tap into as well.
Thanks, Arushi. Very, very well put. So I just kind of would like to summarize here, and I want to say that marketing and communication has changed considerably since COVID. Obviously, the focus is on digital and social, like Arushi rightly pointed out. And the focus has shifted really when you're talking about communications and branding. It's shifted from selling a product, yeah, to solidarity, to support. You want to show people, your audience, your customer base. You want to show them that you're really there for them. You're basically, a part of what they're going through. So brands have basically started talking about, you know, they're raising awareness about COVID. They're talking about hygiene. They're talking about washing your hands and things like this. So the point is that, okay, they've gone above and beyond. They've changed the way they're doing things. And it's all about safety, solidarity, and support today. And just to give you an example, right, of how different things have become today. Here's what HDFC Bank has been up to. They partnered with Shaheen Bhatt to share tips on mental health and how to stay sane during the COVID and during this lockdown period. Now, this is absolutely new because banks have traditionally been known to sell their services and their products. They didn't traditionally delve into the personal aspect of people's lives, unless it was about getting a loan to buy a new house or a car. It's not typically what banks have been known to do traditionally. Mm. But here they're showing that, showing their customers that they understand them, they understand their problems, and they're also in this together with their customers, which is absolutely what they should be doing, is the need of the hour, I think. So well done on that, HDFC, I would say. And then this brings us to the next section of the webinar, influencer marketing and how that has changed, right, in the era of COVID. So before we jump into it, I want to quickly point out that influencer marketing is definitely going to help you win a lot of brand love and brownie points during COVID. But if there are 10 other things that you can do if your influencer marketing program is not very, not very well developed yet, right? If you didn't get a chance to do it before COVID, now it would be a bit harder. But yeah, so there are 11 things that you can do to create a love brand, a love persona, which is going to help you win big really and get a lot more brand awareness and recall after this, let's say after this crisis. Just to give you some context, our team has analyzed over 250,000 conversations on social media from 28 different industries and from over 750 brands to arrive at these factors. And, this is what would help you win the hearts of your customers or would-be customers or prospects. Now, I will not be going through all of them in detail for this one, but I would like to focus on influencer marketing. But you can always download the report that we put together based on our analysis. It's on our website. There's going to be a lot of in-depth explanation for each and a lot of examples which support each of this, so you understand it better. Okay, so the COVID crisis, like we know, it's really done a number on most businesses and also marketing strategies, right? You had to redo everything. You had to overhaul it. Let's say it had to be re-examined. And so influencer marketing, therefore, it's not really an exception. So the first thing that we need to keep in mind is that there are, it's photo shoots and stuff, they're not possible today. It's because of very simply logistical issues. Lockdown itself doesn't allow for that. And of course, even today, even though we're not formally under lockdown, we, those of us, we all know that we can go out at our own risk and not, it's not really advisable. So influencers can only post content from their homes. Additionally, budgets have been shrinking, right? And that also means a decrease in influencer content. But it's not all bad. I'll get to that in just a bit. But in the meantime, we must not forget that influencer marketing is here to stay. It is definitely something that any brand should look into. You should invest in it. If you're playing the long-term game, which let's face it, like basically everybody is right now because we don't know what's going to happen. The idea is to make sure that your brand stands out even after this nightmare, let's say. So, and why does it work, right? People love influencers and they relate to them. And I would say the ultimate goal of most brands is to reduce the distance between them and their audience or their customers, right? So, and influencers kind of act like the middleman here. They are basically, they bring the audience closer to the brand with their content, and because they're so relatable and things like this, which is why it really really works. So, going back to why it's not so bad, influencers are still doing things, some of them. So as you can see, there's Dolly Singh in this picture. What she's doing is she is reacting this iconic scene from The Lion King where Simba was held up. He was displayed to the kingdom, and she's doing this with her dog at home from the comfort of her living room. And of course, it's a heartwarming post. It's great. It makes you smile. And what she's doing at the same time is promoting the recent merger with Disney Plus and Hotstar. So that kind of content can still be done, but you have to be very creative. And maybe Arushi, you can comment on that further.
Sure. Thanks, Pragati. I think very rightly said, right? It's only challenging currently for brands to create fresh content since video production is a challenge. People cannot step out, people cannot collaborate and create this. So definitely there is a dependency on influencers in these time by brands to kind of churn out fresh content for their campaigns. And even influencers content, like Pragati mentioned, has also evolved, right? Because they also definitely cannot step out from their homes. So they're creating all this from their own space. And that's why a lot of content today we see is getting created on how to kind of, let's say, cook a recipe or the kind of fitness, how to take care of your skin. Influencers are also talking a lot about how they're spending time in lockdown. What is that they're doing with their family, the kind of shows they're watching, the kind of games they're playing. A lot of brands are also leveraging online challenges. So they did all this whole hand wash challenge, I think, a couple of weeks back, which went viral online. And obviously, it was very relatable because hand wash was a big trend as to in terms of safety, how everyone was telling that we definitely need to keep washing our hands. Brands are also what they're doing is leveraging influencers for live collaborations because you have these special days or they have a special campaign in mind. So it's relatively easier to get an influencer to go live from their own space and kind of tap onto their audiences as well. So these are some of the trends that we have seen, and yeah, I think we'll kind of now cover some of the case studies that we have seen during these time, leveraging some of these trends. Yeah. Yeah, you can play the video. Yeah. Thanks, Pragati. Thanks for playing the video. So this was a campaign that we kind of did for Tata Click. So Tata Click came to us with an insight as to how they wanted to capture the emotion of people missing office, since India had been in a strict lockdown for almost 8 weeks then, I think. So our team came up with this video of capturing the emotion without having to conduct any shoot. So the video that you just saw, these are all online footages that we sourced online, and then we synced it with the voiceover and music. We also created a series of posts, and we also created an AR filter, which we eventually asked influencers to kind of use and amplify the content. So we'll just quickly play this video of the AR filter.
Let's try this, guys. Tag a colleague who is the weekend worker. Diksha, always on it. Babe, I miss you. If you also miss your office colleagues, do try this filter and don't forget to tag Tata Click.
Yeah. So what this did is, it was very relatable. I think all of us were missing office. All of us were missing our colleagues. We never thought we will be working from home from this long. So a lot of, and the influencers started using it and tagged their respective friends. A lot of colleagues started using it, and this eventually led to the virality of the campaign, where, we had around 10,000 people actually using this sticker and, this AR filter, and actually, passing it on to their friends and tagging them. And the campaign itself got us 1.5 lakh impressions, and it resulted into 12,000 in terms of engagement. So this is basically a clear example of how using hero content and then combining it with influencers can really, go viral. So from a brand awareness point of view. Yeah, over to you, Pragati. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Arushi. Great campaign. I really enjoyed that video and very relatable, that you nicely pointed out. So yeah, building on what Arushi said, I'd like to highlight L'Oreal India. And what they're going to say is they've changed some of their content, the nature, I would say. And here's a look at what they've done. They've worked with Simi Varaya, a beauty and fashion influencer. And what they've done is they've produced videos like this one, where the influencer is talking about how you can kind of stay glam, but and they still make an effort, even though you're working from home, which is typically not when we are used to wearing makeup, right? So she has this video up on L'Oreal's channel where she outlines two makeup looks. One is to look presentable in your work Zoom calls, and one is to add a spark to your virtual dates. So that's quite let's say clever, because L'Oreal is kind of defining a new trend or a new usage for their products, because typically, again, like I mentioned, makeup is not something we wear when we are at home, but because the circumstances have changed, and definitely there's no clarity on how long it's going to be like this, um, L'Oreal is trying to, start a new trend, I would say, maybe, of wearing makeup at home while at work. So that cleverly, positions their product as something that you need, even though it's not really an essential, let's say. So yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I'd like to invite Arushi to share another case study.
Yeah. Sure, we can go ahead and play these videos. I can talk later. No
okay, sure, I'll do that.
क्या हाल है?
आ गया तू? चला रमी खेलते हैं।
यस, मैं जीत गया।
ये कैसे हो सकता है भाई? तूने तो अभी खेलना शुरू करा है।
ये देख, रमी कल्चर पर रजिस्टर करते ही आप डेली फ्री रिवॉर्ड क्लेम करके गारंटेड ₹310 कैश जीतते हो। और सबसे अच्छी बात, आप जीते हुए पैसे अपने बैंक अकाउंट में ट्रांसफर कर सकते हैं। साथ ही साथ खेलो रमी कल्चर ऐप और जीतो रियल कैश।
जल्दी से डाउनलोड कर रमी कल्चर ऐप और जीत वेलकम बोनस, वो भी 5,250 रुपए।
अजी हाँ।
பாட்டி, எனக்கு போனஸ் கிடைச்சிருக்கு.
ஆபீஸ்ல உனக்கு போனஸ் போட்டிருக்காங்களா?
இல்ல பாட்டி, ரம்மி கல்ச்சர்ல எனக்கு போனஸ் கிடைச்சிருக்கு.
ரம்மி கல்ச்சரா? அப்படின்னா?
ரம்மி கல்ச்சர் ஆப்பில் ரம்மி விளையாடுங்க, எக்கச்சக்க பரிசுகளை வெல்லுங்க. உங்கள் அக்கௌண்ட்டில் ஒவ்வொரு முறையும் பணம் ஆட் பண்ணும்போதும் ஃப்ரீ போனஸ் பெறுங்க. அது மட்டும் இல்லாமல் 10% போனஸ் பெறுங்கள் ஒவ்வொரு கேமுக்கும்.
ரம்மி கல்ச்சர் ஆப் டவுன்லோட் பண்ணுங்க, ரெஜிஸ்டர் பண்ணுங்க, 310 ரூபாய் ஃப்ரீ கேஷ் பெறுங்க. ஸோ உடனே ரம்மி விளையாடுங்க, பணத்தை அள்ளுங்க.
So yeah, thanks for playing this video. So this was basically a campaign that we did for Rummy Culture, one of the fastest growing gaming apps. So we leverage influencer marketing on TikTok to drive app installs for the brand. What you earlier saw for Tata Click was mostly a brand campaign. However, from influencer marketing point of view, while this is basically a performance campaign. So, we got these short videos created by influencers, and we eventually use this content in the top funnel as well for awareness, and then at the last funnel to drive app installs. And if you also saw, the content was created in multiple languages. I played one in Hindi for you, followed by one in Tamil. And we did this in multiple regional languages to kind of help increase the traction. The campaign overall got us a 6.5 lakh reach and a 1 lakh campaign engagement. And we got a lot of app installs as well for the client for this. So yeah.
Thanks, Raj, for sharing that with us. That's really cool, especially like you mentioned, because regional content is really growing right now. And I'd like to highlight, another example just to show you how versatile influencer marketing can be. And in my opinion, this is my favorite, really, I would say, and it's a master stroke, and it comes from the Wizarding World with their Harry Potter at Home series. So Warner Brothers, what they've done is they're bringing us, let's say, a healthy dose of Pottermania while we're at home. And with this initiative, where celebrities from all over the world, what they're doing is they're reading out various chapters from Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, including our very own Alia Bhatt. So, with more time in people's hands, they're definitely more receptive, let's say, to initiatives like this. They're home all the time, there's less meetings to attend. So, this is something that people are really turning to, using it maybe like even a podcast. So, in fact, look at how many mentions we have of the Wizarding World since lockdown, right? I think they did the right thing by introducing an initiative like this. What I did is I ran a quick search on Wizarding World, their hashtag, and the screenshot from the tool shows you that the mentions of the hashtag Wizarding World, basically, you can see two big peaks, right, from this entire lockdown period. The first one is on 25th of April, something like that, around that time. And this is when they launched a quiz for Potter fans. And one was, so obviously, as a result of that quiz launch, a lot of people started engaging. They were talking about their scores, and of course, they scrambled to participate and get as much of a high score as they possibly could. So that was really smart. The second peak is on the 4th of May, actually, and that's when they launched this particular storytelling initiative. Now, it definitely looks like they made the right choice. It's because you can also see that subsequently they've had a lot of peaks. So the buzz has not died down about them. So it's still going strong, and I think that's something that Warner Brothers and Harry Potter, these guys, they've captured this very well. So well done, guys.
Yeah, quite an interesting take, and by also leveraging Bollywood celebrities, I would say, to kind of amplify it. Yeah, so this is we did something for World Nutrition Day. This was a live collaboration for a pharma company called Dr. Reddy. They wanted to do something different, and we kind of said, why don't we tie up with a celebrity nutritionist? And in this case, we kind of ended up partnering with Anjali Mukherjee. She has a great presence on Facebook, since most of the brand's target audience is above the age of 40. So hence they were looking at Facebook as a platform. And yeah, so this campaign actually, resulted in 40,000 views and also got 1,000 engagement. And we're still using this content further to amplify it to the right target audience. So like if you've seen all the case studies, all of them are very different. The first one was, there's a film which was the center of the whole theme, and influencers were kind of leveraged to amplify the brand campaign. The second was more for the performance point of view, where you kind of driving conversions. This is more about just, putting in the brand on the side on a World Nutrition Day and just talking to them and talking to your consumers and answering their queries through a specialist. So very different campaigns. and all done in the last 2 months, I would say. Yeah. Sure, we can move ahead. Yeah. So yeah, marketing after Corona. I don't think there's any after. Like I said, it's here to stay, at least in India, for some time. So we've definitely, the pandemic has made a lot of changes in our behaviors. More of us are now working from home and using, all kind of different products more. So I think I read a couple of weeks back where Pepperfry declared that, a lot of work desk is what was one of their fastest and hottest selling products. So, we have obviously then seen a shift, right, in consumers consuming different products. Brands also at this time need to focus a lot on hygiene and trust, I think. Couple of weeks back, we had ordered, my husband and me had ordered food online through a restaurant on Swiggy. And, we were delighted to see a slip of paper highlighting the hygiene checks that went in while preparing a food. That was mentioned the chef's temperature was this much. These were all the steps taken while preparing a food. So that obviously stood out for us, and we felt more safe and secure and said, okay, we definitely should go back and order from here as well. There's obviously a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of tension. So there's going to be a lot of demand for therapists. So, these are just some examples of seeing how things are shifting and how brands are pivoting. So it's very important for brands to understand which of these shifts impact them and then adapt quickly towards, change their business model and quickly adapt towards it. Yeah, next. Yeah, so the post-corona marketing or the marketing which brands I would say currently need to leverage is to, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of these new users in India are from tier 2 and tier 3 cities and might not be English speaking. So multilingual definitely will be king. And we also need to keep the user experience very minimalistic because these these users are coming for the first time on digital. We need to be transparent and we need to obviously have empathy as well in the way we communicate. And we need to keep the communication definitely simple and straightforward. And I think that's what the brands need to kind of keep in mind while whichever campaigns they would be doing currently or going forward on digital for now. Next.
Thanks so much for your insights, Arushi. Really, I couldn't be more in sync with them. So what I'd like to do is I'd also like to add some points on this because indeed, marketing has changed so much that we all need to adapt, and there are so many ways in which we can do it. I think this must always be stressed. So stressed on, sorry. So first off, products are evolving, right? Today, so more and more people are looking at contactless solutions. So India, Japan, and the US, as per McKinsey's report, these are markets where online and reduced contact initiatives are thriving. And this means product marketers really have to step up. Innovation should be kind of at its peak. I just want to mention here that this is maybe my personal view. I do think that contactless and online transactions, they are here to stay. I think the coronavirus, the crisis basically has really nearly expedited it, but this is going to stay. It's going to be one of the, I don't want to use the word new normal anymore, but it's going to stay even after we are through with this, because of course inherently we are looking at convenience for every service that we use, for everything that we do. And then as was highlighted before, digital is really the way to go today, especially since offline events are like, it's a distant dream. So, the idea is to maximize on what you can do, which is digital. And moreover, since it's more traceable, right, it makes ROI conversations easier. Since digital is you can really track everything that you were doing, that you were aiming to do, what worked, what didn't work. It's easy. It's much easier to do than, let's say, if you have a billboard somewhere. You don't know if the right people saw it, right? So yeah, so I had a chance to check out what Neil Patel has to say on this. And actually, he highly recommends that we look into paid ads now more than ever before, because if you just look at the chart over there, you can see that the ROI they bring in is way more. It's almost double than what it was pre-COVID. It's something like 30%, pre-COVID, and right now it's something like 55%. So that's a huge increase, right? And marketers should be cognizant of that, and they should really capitalize on it. Like another thing we should remember is that the CPC rates are cheaper now. They're lower than they were because people are online more. so supplies more, let's say, and that's something every marketer should cash in on. And plus, as a whole, we have those old arguments. Digital ads are way cheaper than traditional advertising methods, and spreading the word with digital is easier. So apart from the old argument that we have for digital and why it was already thriving before coronavirus, is you can see that the costs are cheaper, and that's something that is like crucial information right now with so many budget cuts and slashes. Um, and so coming back to influencer marketing, right? During the COVID era, so I ran a search on this, and I took a look at the themes and conversations which are taking place online. So let's take a closer look at it, okay? And it comes obviously as no surprise that COVID-19 is at the center of it. It's the central theme. It's the most prominent one, has the most mentions. But what you can also see is, prominent hashtags and challenges that have been made popular by influencers. So, if you look closely, you'll see everyday superheroes over here. That's Dunzo's. They've done a good job, and they've had, they've been promoting this as a part of their service. Zomato lockdown recipes. Then there's of course, the hand wash challenge by Dettol, which really, let's say, it was a big hit. And so the takeaway here is that influencer marketing has clearly adapted to the current situation, and we can see that in the content that's being produced. So also I would like to highlight, and we'll cover that later as well, that people are way more receptive today to this because, like Arushi mentioned, there's a lot more time. People have a lot more time on their hands, so they're looking at things to do and different methods of entertainment. Let's say. Right. So, what does going back to influencer marketing afterwards? What does it look like? It doesn't end here. Influencers are here to stay, and of course, we see a lower percentage of sponsored posts, right? Like we mentioned, there is a crisis, and there are budget cuts. But for example, just to give you an example of that, actually, roughly a third of posts in February on Instagram were sponsored, and in April this has become a mere 4%, right? So influencers are diversifying. That's what they need to do. Even though traditional methods of them doing what they're doing is diminishing, is decreasing, is probably temporary. Influencers are diversifying to loyalty programs or paying for content consumption models to keep their options open and to keep multiple channels of income and open up different income streams. And so a lot of them also, apart from that, they're changing the kind of content. They're teaching courses. Okay, this is obviously traditionally not what influencers have been up to. They're teaching courses in editing, etc. And finally, of course, they're changing their content from product reviews to let's say something like DIY stuff, considering essentials, non-essentials are still hard to get by. So you will see more more recipes being shared online rather than somebody reviewing a restaurant or a hotel. Of course, that's out of the question today. So there's more recipes, and then there's a dalgona coffee challenge or the banana bread making or sourdough. That's the kind of stuff that's being talked about today. So it's more of the stuff you can do at home. So they're rising to the occasion, I would say. And then this brings us to the end of the webinar. So I'd like to highlight some of the key takeaways here. And of course, Arushi, please chime in. So the consumer here is the central focus of content now more than they've ever been. Especially, like I said, they have more time. So and they have many options, right? Because there are a lot of influencers. So you want to be center stage. You want to catch their attention. So this takes me to the second point, really, that content is still king. People are looking to be entertained, right? So in many ways, it's easier for a newer influencer to get noticed as well if you know what people want to talk about or want to see. So that's something you can always do. Then of course, brand love can be established in many ways, but the emotional connect you establish with your audience through influencers is really priceless. Maybe Arushi, you want to add here on consumer habits and changes?
Yeah, thanks, Pragati. Thanks. So, like I mentioned earlier, our habits are changing. The way we are consuming, the kind of goods we are consuming, our routines have changed. Like I mentioned, we are working a lot from home. We are online through our mobile a lot. So I think our habits are changing. So even like I mentioned, the brands need to pivot as to how they can target these consumers and what kind of content then they create through influencers for the same. In terms of influencer marketing, yes, definitely we need to keep customer at the center, and then we need to figure out how to kind of gauge, their attention. And yeah, I think lastly, rightly put here as well, that creativity and innovation, drive the campaign. So yes, don't be afraid to experiment. And yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Arushi. So I'd like to open it up for questions. I already see some questions, so maybe we can start already. So yes, with TikTok ban, how do brands leverage those content creators, especially because they need to reach their followers on other platforms? Maybe Arushi would like to take that.
Yeah. So I think, we obviously work very closely and with the TikTok creators, right? And have done multiple campaigns. A lot of them also have a following on Instagram and YouTube. So obviously those are the channels that they'll explore. And it's still early days, like I mentioned, with TikTok ban. It's been only 2 days. We don't know what it's going to be, but already seeing a traction, at least in the news, that a lot of new apps, Indian apps, are promoting themselves and trying to kind of get these creators on their platforms. So we don't know what will be the next TikTok in India. Will it be Trell? Will it be the Posto, like I mentioned? But yeah, I think it's still early days. But most of these creators, like I mentioned, are also on other platforms. So brands can still leverage them, and or we'll see a new app coming into play to kind of leverage that as well.
Thanks a lot for that, Arushi. Really makes sense. There are multiple platforms, and yes, the platform doesn't make the content creator. So it's basically they will find newer platforms and outlets. Actually, another one for you, specific to the Rummy campaign, actually. So someone's asking how many installs did the campaign manage to drive for the Rummy app, and what was the cost? It's very specific, but yeah, if you would like to take that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't have the exact figures from what I know. So what happens on this campaign is, what I shared with you from more about what we did on the influencer, but the brand obviously pumps in money to kind of run ads on TikTok to drive these installs. But in terms of the cost per install, it was relatively cheaper than other platforms, is what I can kind of share. In terms of the cost, it was so let's say they're doing the same campaign on, let's say, a Google, or let's say a Facebook or some other channel. In terms of TikTok, leveraging these influencers actually got them the cost as half. That's what I, in terms of the matrix that I have. Yeah.
Awesome. How to convince traditional marketers to come online for influencer marketing? Right. So my simple answer would be numbers. So numbers is going to help you. This is what's going to help you convince anybody of this. And right now, the biggest number you should look at is cost, right? So traditional cost, and also obviously feasibility. So if there's a traditional marketer who wants to do a shoot right now and air it on TV, I'm not sure that's going to be possible, right? So that's one thing. If there's nothing else you can do to convince them, you would talk about lack of options, lack of feasibility. Second thing is the costs, right? So even before this, let's forget this for 5 minutes, right? Let's forget that we're in the middle of a crisis for 5 minutes. Influencer marketing is cheaper than everything that you need to do to when you're doing a shoot. You have to pay multiple people, you have to work on a concept, you have to do everything. So not only is your cost high, your labor is high as well. But generally, if you pick smart, influencers take care of most of the content creation as well, and they're able to create their content as well. They have the equipment and stuff at home. So it's about convenience, flexibility, and cost. So these are the 3 arguments that I would present. And along with that, of course, there are examples, right? So you would share one of these examples, maybe that Arushi shared right now, or one of the other ones where you can see the success stories of brands that have adopted influencer marketing. That's what I would do. Maybe you'd like to add on that, Arushi, or maybe I can move on.
Yeah, like I just like to add a little bit in terms of, obviously, converting back from offline to online is, I think cost is direct, obviously one of them, but right now, I don't think we are consuming anything offline, right? Are you going, how much are we stepping out of our house? Are we seeing a billboard? Are we going to a cinema and seeing an ad? No, we are not. A lot of us are not even subscribing to papers right now, I think, for safety. So I think we're not really consuming anything offline, rather we're going more and more online, I think, and that's when I think that's a clear way for brands to say, okay, yes, they need to be online. And influencer marketing, like Pragati rightly mentioned, primarily because influencers can create quick content, great content very quickly. Plus, you can also tap onto their audiences, which gives you a wider pool as well.
Absolutely. So yeah, moving on to the next one. So very specific. How do brands find the right influencers? So, and also, do they prefer micro, nano, or super influencers? So yeah, Arushi, maybe you could take that since you head influencer
So it
operation.
really, so it depends. Like I mentioned, we ourselves have a database of 40,000 plus, and we are going to be only adding more of influencers, and influencers in India are only growing. So I think what we tell brands is it really depends on your objective, and plus what's your audience? Is your audience niche? Is your audience mass? What is the kind of product are you looking at? What do you want at the end of the campaign? And obviously budgets definitely play a big role. Like a lot of these big influencers charge for one video relatively more than what a micro influencer would charge for one video. So I think it's a combination, and then depending on where the brand is, what's the objective, then we kind of go back with combinations as to, okay, you're looking to launch something new, you want to get quick traction, then maybe work with someone big. You're looking to kind of do this continuously and kind of gain momentum, then maybe work with smaller people since you have limited budget. So it really, like I mentioned, it really depends where you are, and then accordingly kind of tap onto them.
Awesome. Yes, and that's I couldn't agree more. It's really the fit and also how much your audience relates to them as well. That's what I would say. And then moving on to the next question, which platform do brands find best for the coming times? Right. So I think basically I think we've established here that digital is the way to go, and it's also not only that, it's also lack of options. I think which platform is better for you depends on the kind of influencers you're working with and their following, where they are best, and also the kind of brand that you are. So demographics, your own database, what matches your audience profile, right? So. Facebook, for example, would be a great one for when we talked about the nutrition campaign for people 40 who are 40 plus. For teenagers, okay, TikTok isn't there anymore, but we have substitutes which are fast catching up. And then there's millennials who are using a combination of all of these, specifically though Instagram. So it depends really on you, on your brand, and what it represents. So a lot of these questions, all you have to do is the answers are easy. It just depends on your brand, your profile, and what you want to achieve, and of course your audience. Right. So so maybe this one, Arushi, I'll pass on to you. What oops, I lost it. Yeah. What platforms can be used to track campaign insights?
I think all platforms can be used to, I think Facebook itself has a campaign insight, even Instagram for that matter, and even, YouTube as well, you can kind of. So I think all platforms, depending again, like I mentioned, what is that you want to track, right? But I think in terms of data, I think there's a lot of data available on all these platforms. It's, it's how you kind of make sense of it, I would say, eventually.
Yeah, and to add to that, I'd also like to say that apart from these platforms, right, you also have tools. For example, Talkwalker is one of them. So it helps you, track how well your campaign has done across platforms. So not just limited to one, but across. So yeah, and of course there are agencies as well that do it. But there are many, resources, let's say, at hand that helps do that. Then the next one, again, this one I think is quite specific for you, Arushi. So someone's asking if there's any average stat on Instagram, I guess, Insta follower acquisition cost for a fashion brand.
There's not average stat today. What we kind of look at is there's something called an engagement rate for influencers. So when we are shortlisting influencers, that's something we can share with brands. So some of them have a 1% range, some of them have a 3%, some of them even have a 7%. On an average rate today on Instagram is 5%. So this is basically how much their audiences are engaging with their content, right? So that means they're creating content which is relatable for their audiences. So engagement, I would say these people are liking it or commenting it, sharing it. And that's what, so depending, how much followers you're looking to gain, there's not a perfect number to it, but you can obviously narrow down your influencers based on what their metrics are, and then kind of go ahead with the campaign.
Sure, that definitely makes sense. And I have another one which is specific to TikTok. So maybe we can both add to it. But someone's asking if you feel some other app can take over TikTok.
So like I mentioned, it's still early days. I think a lot of Indian apps are obviously, claiming, one is Posto right now is the #1 app on Play Store. Then there's something called Trail. ShareChat has been around for a while. I think there are lots of apps, but we don't know. It's still early days. We don't know who will be #1. We don't even know if TikTok might be back. So still early days, I would say. Yeah.
Absolutely agree with that one, actually. It is still early days, and it's not the first time TikTok has been banned. It did manage to come back last time, right? So we don't know if there is a need for another app to overtake TikTok. But just to say that we were around before TikTok, there were other platforms that are still around, and there are new players every single day. So you never know who's going to make it big. And of course, even if there's not somebody immediately, Instagram was basically a precursor. So, it can still go as it was for a long time. Plus, a lot of the creators on TikTok are already established creators on Instagram. So I think they would just tap into the existing follower base over there and use Instagram to get some of the followers from TikTok onto the other platform. So they can still kind of have their entire family in one place. So yeah, so there's another one which is about budget. What is the minimum budget we should account for to start influencer marketing? So yeah, I would leave that to you as well.
So I think a minimum, I mean, it again depends on your outcome, but at least I would say look at, let's say you want to start small and want to just leverage micro influencers for the relatively the smaller influencers. So I would say at least keep, 1 to 2 lakhs at least to begin with, and then see if you're getting decent traction and then maybe scale it up. And focus maybe on an Instagram because a YouTube influencers are relatively more expensive, and maybe start there and then kind of scale it up. Yeah.
Sure. And then there's another one. Maybe we can both add on this one. So someone's asking for tips on increasing engagement on Instagram. So like we mentioned, content is king, right? So the biggest tip I would have is to post relevant content, to post entertaining content. So that's something that really works. And also, the idea is you would see a lot of large influencers with massive followings, but if you look at the numbers, it's not that engaged. So engagement also is something that you have to keep track of. You have to see whether you have fake followers or real followers or bots. And of course, I would say, you have friends you have people in the same circle. Have them spread the word, right? Everybody's reposting stories on Instagram today. To spread the word. So that's something that is, you should count on your circle and your network as well, apart from content. And then for a brand, right, you will have a lot of engagement, or the right engagement, let's say, not a lot. I think that's something we have to keep in mind. If you use the right influencers as well, right, because you have to check what kind of followers they have. Is the follower profile matching that of the audience profile of your brand? That's something you have to keep in mind as well. So choosing the right influence is something that really helps with that as well. And maybe you'd like to add some stuff, Arushi, as well.
No, that's perfect.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So okay, there's another one on charge. I think we've already covered this. Right. So this is from an influencer. So hi, welcome. As an influencer, how can I list myself in the database of brands? So I would leave that to you, Arushi, because you are dealing.
I don't think. I think that obviously, there are particular brands that you would want to really work with, then maybe connect with them on LinkedIn. I would say the brand managers, and kind of try to build that connect and say that, and maybe talk about your work and maybe email them or send them a message. But I would say obviously it would be great also to partner with agencies and maybe, you know, kind of get your profile to them as well, because most brands today work with agencies when it comes to influencer marketing as well. So I think maybe reach out to the agencies that you want to work with, reach out to us as well, and yeah, and then we can, you know, then maybe collaborate with brands. I think so. There are two ways that you can go about it.
Right, sure, absolutely makes sense. Another one is, which platforms do brands find best for the coming times? Yeah, so I would say, well, I think again both of us can add on this, but I think like you saw the stats, right, in this webinar, all of those platforms are growing, right? So you can see that the usage is higher for all of them. So I would say take your pick. There are obviously platforms that are growing. You know, look at the stats. We will send you also this presentation after this, so you can really find you know, find the information there. There's Facebook, there's TikTok, there's Instagram as well. So those are the kind of channels that you should look at, platforms, sorry, that you should look at. And I think honestly, it's a good time for brands. It's a good time to explore these platforms because, one, you can't do much else, right? Secondly, the good news is that people are also in the same position as you. So they are spending a lot more time than they used to be on these platforms, right? So that's something that you should really keep in mind. And you know, if you want to experiment, go ahead. If you want to try something new, this is the time.
Yeah, I'd just like to add to that as well. Like, I think all, you know, the platforms that we like to mention, but like I mentioned, the new users are coming from small towns as well. Need to keep in mind the multilingual piece and see if you are a mass product and you think anyone and everyone can buy you and you're not niche, then do keep in mind the multilingual piece, because India, like other countries, is very different. We talk, every state has their own language, their own nuisances. So ensure that you kind of, you know, you want to go deep in a certain market, then do keep that in mind as well, along with the platform.
Sure. And the last question is, what are the steps to launch an influencer marketing agency?
I mean, the question is that they want to open their own agency, right? Correct? That's what that means, yeah. Yeah, I guess, you know, get a great database, connect with influencers. And I think a database alone is not efficient now, because today in India itself, we have over, I think, 1.5 lakh or 2 lakh more creators. So you need to have some technology to kind of figure out how you can kind of make the process faster and have good connections with brands. And yeah, I guess, and get started.
Amazing, yes. So I think with that, I don't see any further questions. We do have a couple minutes more, but if there are no further questions, I think we can, you know, we can close the session. Yeah, I don't see any more questions actually coming up. But right, thanks a lot again for your time, Arushi. Really, really appreciate it, and thanks for your insights. They really, really, I learned a lot from them. So I'm pretty sure our audience did as well. So yeah, thank you everybody else as well for tuning in, for taking time out today on a Friday afternoon. So we really, really appreciate it. And yeah, so I'd like to encourage you, if you'd like to download our report, like I mentioned, you know, which talks about the 11 factors along with influencer marketing that you can kind of use to win brand love. And yeah, so thanks a lot, everybody. And I'll close the session. Both of us will be in touch, both Social Media Talkwalker. And lovely having you with us here today.
Yeah, thanks so much, Pragati. Yeah, thanks so much for putting this together. And yeah, I really enjoyed myself. Thank you everyone for coming today. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.